producer. Okay, you have become a knowledge producer. So are you passionate about finding out new knowledge? Because if you are, then you fit the category of a knowledge producer, which is why when it comes to research, we have to ensure that we do not commit plagiarism. Okay, that we abide to the rules and ethics of research. Okay, because we are now a a knowledge producer. So I would want everyone in this particular session now to to have a shift of mindset. I'm no longer a reader, but now I am a knowledge producer, and hence I am accountable for what I write. Okay, um, and are you willing to learn? Because research means that you don't know, but you're willing to find out. Okay, are you willing to put in the extra hours after everyone has slept at night? Okay, are you willing to burn the midnight oil? Are you willing to go to libraries in other universities to find out other books that we don't have here in UITM? Okay, are you willing to email experts in your area of research to find out more? Are you willing to attend conferences and ask people whether or not your research area is viable? So if you have all these criteria, then inshallah you're on the right track. Okay, there's another factor which Dr. Nas did not put, which is it because you want a promotion? Okay, or because you want to advance your career? Because by getting a master's or PhD, it means an advancement in your career, and it means that inshallah you earn better, you have better position in your job place, and that's a valid reason. Okay, that's also a valid reason. However, as you progress, if that is your reason, as you progress, you need to keep on reminding yourself, yes, that is my purpose, but at the same time, I must also learn how to develop love and passion for what I do, because that's the only thing that can make you stay awake at night. That passion, okay, that drive to do research. Even though the promotion is important, career development is important, but at the end of the day, that's the one that would help you, sustain throughout the years. Okay. All right. So I hope this first slide I'm able to probe your mind a bit as to why you are doing research, and as to what are some of the really important criteria that we need to have as a researcher. Okay. Okay, Nuruz, we can move on to the other slide. Okay. So when we talk about research methodology, right, or research design, because some books would use the term research design, some research methodology. Actually, they are the same thing. So you just imagine an umbrella, okay, on a rainy day, on a rainy day, or when there's a storm, you use the umbrella to protect you, and the umbrella is like that, it's like that. So research design is right on top. Whatever that comes after that is dekat tiang ya, dekat yang payung yang kita pegang tu, and dekat the wire yang holds the umbrella. But research design is an overview of what your research is. Okay, so so the first bullet point, it says it is a plan, okay, for conducting the research project. And I would like all of you to take note of the word roadmap. Okay, and Dr. Nas used the abbreviation RMD, which is research methodology or research design. It is a roadmap that one decides to follow during the research process to find answers to one research question as validly, okay, take note of this word, as validly, objectively, accurately, and economically as possible. Okay, so when we talk about valid, objective, accurate, and economical factor, you need to take into account all these factors as well. Okay, in deciding which research methodology that you want to do. So, for example, if we are not clear about our research methodology, if we are not clear about our roadmap, we can easily get lost. So imagine if you do not have if you do not have Google Map in your phone, or you do have Google Map but the line is suspended and you lost bearing as to where you are. Doesn't that feel really really frustrated because you want to go somewhere but you don't know where to go or you don't know how to go? That is the importance of research design. Okay, because research design guides you to your end journey of your research. So in order to actually choose the right methodology, okay, you need to read in depth what is research methodology in the first place, what are the available research designs are there, so I remember before I embarked on my research PhD research, I was asked to read six textbooks on research methodology before Dr. Nas could arrive at a conclusion. Okay, this is what I want to adopt. I had to read six textbooks. Okay, so I want to ask all the participants, my beloved students who are here in this platform, have you read any research methodology book? At least one. Have you read? Or have you read at least some journal article on research methodology? Okay, so you need to do this in order to find out the overview of what the research design is. Okay, and when we talk about the validity of research design, the validity here, what it means is that it must be suitable and relevant to your research field. Okay, um, and you must have justification for providing the research design or the research method that you are choosing. If you want to choose quantitative, what is the justification for it? If you want to choose qualitative, what is the justification? And if you want to choose mixed method, what is the justification? As a researcher, you must justify why you choose a certain research method, design or research method. Okay, and objective here means the research design that you choose must be able to meet your research question. Okay, you must be able to address your research question. And then accurate here means in terms of the sample that you use, either qualitative or quantitative, it must be able to address your research question and the procedure must be correct. In other words, if someone else wants to emulate your procedure or how you do the research, they can emulate and they can, in simple word, copy balik what you do. Okay? And economy is cost. Do you have the necessary expertise, for example, to attend courses on NVivo? Do you have the cost to purchase certain software? If you're conducting a large-scale search, do you have the money to have someone to help you, for example, analyze the data? Okay, so these are all the factors that can be taken into account. And according to Carlinger, research design is a plan, structure, and strategy of investigation so conceived as to obtain answers to research questions. Okay, the plan is to complete scheme or program of the research. It includes an outline of what the investigation will do from writing the hypotheses and their operational implication to the final analysis of data. So this one is for quantitative lah. Tapi for us, the investigation will do from writing your research proposal, your research background, okay, and their qualitative qualitative research design to the final analysis of data. Okay, and what I want to attract all of you here is that the plan is to complete scheme or program of the research. So what does it mean? That means a research, when you write your research, it must be distinguished from a book, because when it comes to a book, we don't need to address any research question. Tapi for your research, if you do not complete your research by addressing your research question, your research is not considered complete. Okay, so just imagine now that you have a roadmap, your end journey is you must answer your research question. That is the completion of your research project. That makes the writing of our research different from writing a book. Okay, because in writing a book, you don't need to have that particular objective of completing the end journey. Okay, so that's the importance of research methodology or research design. I hope that I'm able to share with you an overview of why choosing the right research design is important. Okay, is everyone okay so far? I mean, you can ask me anything if you want.
Yes,
So
okay.
let this be an interactive, an interesting one, because it's 3 o'clock on a Friday afternoon. I know it's not an ideal time for us to have intellectual discourse, So let's have a bit of fun as well, okay? Let us not be so serious. So if there's any question you want to ask, just feel free to ask Dr. Nas, okay? All right. Okay, Nuruz, I think we can move to the next slide. Okay. All right. So if Dr. Nas had discussed the functions of what is the meaning of research design earlier, okay. Now I would like to share what are the functions of research design. Okay. All right. Just give me a second. Okay. So the first function of Dr. Nas have divided it into two. Identification and or development of procedures and logistical arrangement required to undertake a study. And the second one is emphasizes the importance of quality in the procedure to ensure their validity, objectivity, and also accuracy. Okay. Okay. So the first one, let's look at under category A, identification and or development of procedures and logistical arrangement required to undertake a study. Okay, so firstly, to specify clearly what the research design is, okay, in order to ensure the readers or examiners understand what procedures to follow and how to follow them. Okay, so in your research proposal, okay, when you write a section on research methodology, okay, you need to basically highlight, what are the research methodology, what is the research methodology that you are adopting, okay, and you need to write your research design as clearly as possible. Just imagine, for any PhD student, Masters by Research, or even MAL or LRM, when you have to present your research proposal, okay, in front of your lecturers or in front of the examiners. This is one of the most common area that examiner will ask, okay, if your research design is not clear. So it has to be clear in a way that the procedure that you lay down can be followed. So not only the what is clearly detailed, but the how is also clearly detailed also. Okay, so the what means, what is the research methodology that you have chosen, why you chose them, that's what. How is what are the stages of the research that you must actually outline in the research proposal. So some lecturers and examiners, they are very, very particular about this. Okay, so you need to have this. Second, to elaborate the procedures in detail so the procedures can be emulated. So emulated here means it can be done again, and the results of that particular research that is done by you is also obtained by another researcher. So, in other words, if your research design is not clear, if another researcher is unable to follow your research design or methodology, meaning that, in terms of research, you have not met the benchmark of what research is supposed to be. Okay, so hence why when you choose a research design, when you conduct your research, you have to be transparent in terms of how the procedure is conducted from the very beginning. Okay, and being transparent also include highlighting what is the limitation of your research, okay, and what is your scope of the research, so that people know, okay, this is the scope and limitation, so hence why this researcher can only work within certain things. Okay, so that is very important. And finally, to provide rationale and justification for choosing such procedures supported by relevant literature review. Okay, so remember just now that Tenas had shared that, it is so important for you to read books on research methodology, because under your research methodology section in your research proposal, and and for some PhD or masters by research, sometimes you have a chapter on your own just on research methodology. So when Dr. Nas did my PhD, I had a chapter on its own just on research methodology, and this is when Dr. Nas finds support from articles and books, as to why I chose mixed method. For me, I chose mixed method. And that was a very a rare departure, okay, from other I suppose in the legal field, mixed method is quite a departure from our traditional qualitative, and that was the more reason why I had to read more, because I need to justify myself as to why I choose mixed method. Okay, so and I think at your stage now, whatever stage you are in, it is definitely important for you to look into the e-books in the library and see what are the books that you can look into. And I'm not sure whether all of you have visited Sage Research Methodology under our online database, UITM. So try and look at that, because it has some references and main books on research methodology, okay? But my favorite authors would be John Creswell, okay? John Creswell would be my favorite authors, and Zena O'Leary, okay? So, you can try and check them out, okay, if you want. All right. Here, emphasize the importance of quality in the procedures to ensure their validity, objectivity, and accuracy. Okay, what I have put here is actually validity, objectivity, and accuracy from quantitative perspective. Okay, so for example, to understand the theory of causality. So, for example, what I can say here is that what is the role of counseling? What is the role of counseling in changing the extent of marital problem? Okay, so that is the theory of causality. What is the relationship between counseling and also marital problem? And then to understand that different sets of variable that cause the change in the dependent variable. Okay, and third, to determine and isolate the impact of different categories of variable so that one can validly, objectively, and accurately ascertain the impact of independent variable. Okay, it's all very big words here, right? But just to summarize and just to make it easy for you to understand. For example, the theory of causality just now that I mentioned was what is the role of counseling or the role of counseling in changing the extent of marital problem. The independent variable for this would be counseling. Okay, so assumption here is made that counseling is the cause of change in marital problem. That is the independent variable. And the dependent variable, the variable is the extent of marital problem. Okay, what is the change in the degree of marital problem, okay, when counseling is used? So in other words, there is that relationship between dependent variable and also independent variable in quantitative study in order to determine the validity of the study, okay, and the accuracy of the study. But however, for qualitative, from the qualitative perspective, the validity, objectivity, and accuracy for us depends on our content analysis. Okay, it depends on our content analysis. To what extent are we using our primary data to the fullest? Okay, to what extent are we actually, is our literature review updated? Have we actually reached a saturation point, in our search for literature review? Okay, and can our literature review be supported, or can our finding be supported from our literature review? So for qualitative study, the validity, objectivity, and accuracy depends on our content analysis and how well and how in-depth we have conducted our research, okay, through either online databases, okay, or whatever that materials that we can find in the library. Okay, so that is very, very important. I know for MEL and LLM, you have I'm sure by now you have attended the library the programs in the library, right? Or the course in the library for conducting literature review. Okay, and for PhD and Masters by Research, your literature review needs to be in depth in order to make sure that you find the gap in your study. Okay, so for us, that is how we measure our validity, objectivity, and also accuracy. Okay, so far, is everyone okay at this level? Is everyone okay? Are you all well versed with the online databases that we have in UITM?
Nas,
Yeah.
it's one speaking here. Good to be back to further my study at PhD level.
Oh, is this Izwan?
Yes, it's one.
Oh, okay, yeah. Hi, Izwan.
Okay, hi Dr. Nas, Assalamualaikum. Can I chip in for a while? Uh, With regard to the qualitative research design, I believe that comparative analysis of different jurisdiction is a must if we are doing a qualitative design. So in terms of validity, objectivity, and accuracy, is the justification for choosing that particular jurisdiction should be part of the research design.
Okay. Okay. I'm back. Sorry about just now because I was trying to press the unmute mute, but somehow or rather it got hang for a while. Okay. Thank you, Izwan. I'm glad to hear you and to see that you are back in your ITM. Okay. Definitely, comparative study is one of the things that we must look into because and it is part of content analysis as part of your qualitative research methodology. Okay. And also, when we do comparative, why we do comparative analysis? Because we want to find a benchmark country. Okay, we want to find a benchmark country because when we do research, we are saying that there are gaps in the law. We are saying that our, legal framework is inadequate. So how are we going to address the inadequacies in our legal framework? Okay, so and one of the ways we can address that is by justifying a certain jurisdiction that we choose. Okay, so for example, I think my PhD students are in here. I think Izmi and Finas, are you here? I'm not sure whether, you know, um, whether Gania is also here. The question, they have chosen UK. So the question that Dr. Nas always asks is like, why UK? What's the latest development in the UK? Would the latest development in the UK would be able to help us address our own inadequacies in Malaysia? And when we talk about jurisdiction that we have chosen through content analysis, it is not possible to find a jurisdiction where the legal framework is also like on top notch and they don't have any weaknesses. It is not possible because every jurisdiction would have its own weakness point. But what we can do here if we try and adopt a jurisdiction is to say, look, we have adopted UK, for example, and the reason is A, B, C, D, E, and E. They do have their weaknesses, but up to date, these are the development that have taken place in the UK that help them to address their own weaknesses. So you need to find those areas, because in other jurisdiction, they are quite advanced in terms of coming up with new guidelines, new SOPs, new laws. So are those things the one that can actually, help strengthen their law? And in turn, can we actually adopt them as our benchmark jurisdiction? So in terms of qualitative research, that is the important part because when you want to recommend something, you need to justify why you want to recommend A. If you want to recommend A, is it based on jurisdiction A? And how successful is jurisdiction A, in pursuing that particular law? Okay. So, and another thing also, why the jurisdiction is important because we want to study what are the theories underpinning theories or principle underpinning their law. And, as researchers, whether you're a full-time PhD, full masters by research or LLM or MEL, at one point or another, your lecturer will ask, what is the theory underpinning your research? What is the principle underpinning your research? And sometimes, this is the most difficult answer to question. Because we all, I think for me, Dr. Siti Sarah, those who have PhD here, this is the most difficult question. But sometimes when we have chosen the right jurisdiction, we will be able to see, okay, in this jurisdiction, this is the underpinning theory for it. Okay. So for example, in my research, I had chosen New Zealand because, in my research, I'm looking into what are other ways that we can help juvenile from, being charged in the court or from being, brought into the formal justice system. So when I study New Zealand, I also look into what are the theories and principles that New Zealand actually use. Okay, so I use that as a justification to say this is the reason why I choose New Zealand, and the outcome of it is positive in New Zealand. Okay, so thank you, Izwan, for bringing that up. I think that question is extremely important, and I hope Dr. Nas had managed to address your question. At the same time, also sharing with the rest who are here today, the importance of content analysis, which includes comparative analysis as well. Okay, for our qualitative study. Okay, so can we move to another slide? Is everyone okay?
Okay, Dr. Nas.
Okay.
Okay, okay. So we can move to another slide. Yeah, someone asked me whether can share the slide. Of course, this slide, I think Cik Nuruz or Dr. Siti Sarah would, we would share with the participants who are present here today. Okay, so don't worry about it. Okay, Nuruz, so we can move on to the next slide. Okay, I think of all the slides that Dr. Nas have here, this is probably the most important one. Okay, I want you to look carefully at what is on the slide. There are 5 categories of, question that each of us as a researcher need to address. Okay, in actually determining or the research design that we want to choose. Okay, okay. So firstly is who, right? So here, who do you want to be able to speak about? Okay. In other words, who is the category of person that is going to be part of your research? Is it going to be children? Is it going to be indigenous person? Is it going to be shareholders? Is it going to be, offenders in prison? So you need to determine who, because, when you have identified the right group of people for your research, that would make it easier for you. Okay, so for example, if we are talking about, in relation to adolescents, or, children who committed crime, we are talking about children who are 18 years old and below. So in other words, when Dr. Nas had already specifically identified that category of people, young offenders from 18 to 21 would be excluded from my research. Okay, would be excluded from my research. All right. So so this would be the primary question that you want to think about, okay, before you choose a certain research design. Okay, and it is important because later on you also need to determine the sample, okay, the sample of the respondent, and also okay, and also the respondent that you want to interview based on the category of persons whom you have chosen. Okay, okay. Second is where, when you talk about this category of person, where would you find them? For example, if I'm talking about juvenile offenders, I am targeting in relation to the institution in Selangor, for example. Okay, and that would include Sekolah Tunas Bakti, okay, and also Sekolah Henry Geni in Selangor. Okay, but I can also go a bit further and say, well, I want to cover Peninsula. If I want to cover Peninsula, I want to take one institution from the northern region, southern region, East Coast, Terengganu, West Coast, and Central Peninsula Malaysia. Okay, so first I have chosen my sample, where I have chosen the specific area that I want to do. Okay, so for example, I'm looking into children in institution, right? Okay, so basically when we talk about where, this physical domain is very, very important. Okay, and also you also need to ask yourself, okay, would the location you choose be credible, okay, to your research? Okay, so in other words, for example, credibility here means, let's say Dr. Nas wants to conduct a research on assessing disciplinary problems among school children in Selangor, right? How can I add to the credibility of my location? Dr. Nas dah dapat dah Selangor, dah dapat dah children, but what else can I do in order to add credibility to my research? What I can do is I can write into the to the um, um, pejabat pendidikan daerah Selangor to find out in Selangor what are the schools that have the highest disciplinary cases. So I have narrowed it down further. Okay, so mungkin they are not in Petaling Jaya, but maybe they are in Sabak Bernam. Okay, so so the location can also help to strengthen, because then you can justify your location. Okay, all right. And then when, okay, how you need to ask this question. How do your methods fit into your time frame? Is timing relevant to the credibility of your method? Okay, for full PhD student and masters by research, you're a bit lucky because time is on your side. Okay, PhD, you have 3 years, masters by research, you have, is it 3 years or 2 years? Okay, but you have longer time than our male counterparts, our male friends who have 1 semester to do proposal, and in the final semester, they will embark in the proper research. Okay, but for our LRM, you are doing your proposal for 1 semester. Okay, so I guess here you need to be realistic in terms of would your research design be able to fit into your time frame? Okay, would be able to fit into the time frame. All right. And if if it's not able to fit, then this is when you need to look back into your research question. Do I have too many research questions? Is it possible for me to address all my research question within this time frame? Okay, and secondly, what are my limitations? Okay, what are my limitations? Do I have enough resources? Am I very good in typing? Am I very good in data analysis? Okay, so you need to take into account these things. Okay, but the question of time frame, you need to put that at the back of your head. But I need you to remember that time frame is not a limitation in your research. Okay, so in your research proposal, it's not possible to say under scope and limitation, yet you only have 3 years or you only have 2 years. It's not possible because the examiner would say, yeah, so you have 3 years or you have 2 years, but what is your research plan? Okay, how have you divided your time in terms of months of going for data collection, data analysis, report writing, doing literature review? Okay, so you need to take into account all these things. So for our male students, you need to take into account what type of fieldwork that is suitable for you to complete within 1 semester. Okay, so would choosing an area that is in Selangor or Melaka would be viable for you, okay, in terms of journey? And now with COVID, to keluar daerah is not possible, right? So, what are our backing or emergency plan? Can we conduct Zoom meetings or can we conduct Zoom interview now? If the respondent is comfortable with it, can we do that? Okay. So those are the questions when it comes to when. Okay. So for PhD and masters, you need to take into account the time frame for graduate on time, GOT, and what you can do to expedite your research process. Okay. Okay, how? How here is the this is the important question when it comes to how do I collect my data? Okay, so when it comes to qualitative study, before we collect our data, ideally we must complete our content analysis first or our literature review, right? Can we collect our data first and then do literature review? I just want to ask your opinion. I just want to know. Can we do that?
I think yes, can do that.
We could. Can we?
Yes, you can. Yes, you can.
Okay. So if you can, um, okay. So without doing your content analysis, right? Without going through your literature review, how are you going to identify your research question? And how are you going to how are you going to formulate your research question? Because when you collect your data, you must meet your research question, right? Can we just collect our data just like that without knowing what our research questions are?
Cannot.
No, doctor.
Yeah, so if we don't conduct our literature review, right? If we don't know what is the gap in our law, how are we going to collect our data? I'm just
Correct.
wondering because that's why research methodology is a systematic procedure of doing research. So
Yeah.
kita tak boleh rojak lah buat ni dulu, buat ni dulu, buat ni dulu. Tak boleh campur aduk. It cannot be a rojak form of doing research. It has to be systematic from the very beginning. Okay? So when you have done for MEL and for MEL, this semester is the best semester for you to conduct your literature review when you are doing your proposal, because in your third semester, you're going to conduct the fieldwork. So that's good for you. That's perfect because you're only conducted your fieldwork after your research proposal is ready, which means for MEL student, you must meet a certain standard first before you go out and do your research. That's why we give you 2 semesters. But for LLM, you are given 1 semester to prepare a research proposal. Tapi dah conduct fieldwork ke belum? For our LLM student, dah ke belum? For our LLM student, this semester you're only doing research proposal kan?
Yes.
Okay, ada tak your lecturer suruh you buat your fieldwork sekarang?
Tak ada.
Tak ada, right? And there's a good reason. Yeah, and there's a good reason for it. The good reason is that so that you can prepare a good research proposal, kita boleh tahu what is the gap in our research before kita keluar. Sebab Dr. Nas takut when you collect your data, you conduct interview, silap-silap the interviewee akan ask you balik, especially if they're expert in the field. They will ask, betul ke your question ni? Or have you looked into this area? Because some interviewees, because they are expert, that's why you choose them as your respondent. So some interviewees said to me, there are some students who went to them not really knowing what the questions they want to ask. So the interviewee pula betulkan balik the research question or the interview question of the student. So kita tak nak jadi macam tu lah kan? Because when we go out and collect data, we want to be prepared. We want to show the interviewee we know our stuff. We know what our gaps are. We know what is the benchmark jurisdiction we have chosen. We want to know what they think about it because some respondent akan tanya kita balik during the interview. What do you think of this? So if we are not prepared, or if you are not fully prepared with our, legal knowledge, our gaps in our area, then sometimes we may not be able to address their question. Okay, and that would be a shame, because you know why? You lose the opportunity to ask the right question to the right people. Dr. Nas repeat, lack of knowledge in literature review, or lack of knowledge, or unclear research question, okay, will lead to missed opportunities in asking the right question to the right people, and hence you don't meet your research question. Everyone got that? Okay.
Yes,
So
Dr. Nas.
yeah, so that is like the reason why it is important. So I want you to remember this, especially before you go for your data collection. Remember today, remember this moment, remember that missed opportunity if you don't ask the right question. Okay. So once you know what are the gaps in your research area, okay, then only you can formulate in your head, okay, now what is the next process? Okay, what should I do now? Should I confirm with the expertise in this area about who should I meet? You can ask that question. You can email people around who would be your most suitable respondent. Okay, and then you can start drafting your interview question for data collection. Okay, and then after that, you can validate your interview question by asking expert of content analysis to check your interview question. Are you on the right track? Are you asking the right question? Okay, and then arrange for the interview. Okay, and then meet your respondent. But before that, before doing all that data collection, UiTM requires you to submit ethics application first. Okay, now it's compulsory. So for male student, you have in your third semester, so you have some time to apply nanti under your supervisor. PhD and masters, you're required to do that. Okay, and also, our LLM tak lah, sebab you're not doing your fieldwork, right? So that is the how that you need to think about. Tapi how ni come back to research methodology. So without doing a good research on literature review, without knowing your gaps, you would not know what are the right research question, and you cannot determine your research design. Okay, you cannot determine your right research design. Okay, so that's why the research design is a roadmap. So research design and research methodology, they come hand in hand. Okay, it cannot be separated. Right? And finally, what will you look for and what will you ask? Okay, so what here is with regards to your interview protocol. For example, your research method. Okay, so for example, kita choose semi-structured interview. Alright, how many interview questions do you want to come up with? Are these questions relevant, okay, to your respondent? How many sets of questions do you have to do? Do you have to draft in both Malay and English? Okay, who can validate your research question? All right, and then finally, when you go through your research question, would the respondent be able to understand? Okay, what is it that you're asking? So the who, the where, the when, the how, and the what are the 5 important questions that you must ask yourself. These are the most influential questions that will determine your research design. Okay, these are the 5 important questions that will determine, are you going for quantitative? Are you going for qualitative? Are you going for mixed method? All right, so I hope before you all, after the session end and before you go and sleep tonight, you can paste these 5 questions next to your bed. Is that possible? On top of your study table. So whenever the idea tu datang, terus tulis, so that because you want to be sure of the research design that you're choosing. Okay, so before we go to the next slide, I just want to ask, is everyone okay with these 5 questions? I want to give you 5 minutes. No, not 5 minutes, 1 minute to write in bullet points under every heading what we have discussed that is relevant to your area. Can you do that now? I give you maybe 2 minutes. Nuruz, can you help me in set the timing?
Sure,
Because
Kak.
okay, thank you. Because it's 4 o'clock and I want everyone to be awake.
Alright.
Okay,
Sure.
so can you do the timing for me?
Yes, can.
Okay. 2 minit cukup tak or you want 3 minutes? 2 minit cukup?
Yes, cukup.
Okay.
For us, Doctor.
Okay. Bullet points pun cukup. No need to write in sentences, okay?
Two minutes is over, Kak. I think you need to unmute yourself because I've muted everyone earlier.
That was fast.
Yep.
Cukup tak semua orang? Cukup tak? Yeah, we just make it a bit fun lah, kan? Because it's Friday evening and anyway, learning is fun, research is fun. So, so we have to make it as interesting as possible. So, of course, 2 minutes, realistically, it's not enough for you to address all these questions, but when you revisit your research proposal, especially for those who are planning to do your defense soon, I want you to just have another checklist, as to justification for all this. Do you provide justification for all these questions? Okay, in your research proposal. So at least just give you a head start before your defense. Okay, and before any of you wants to do your presentation. Okay, thank you for participating. All right, so keep these questions close to your heart, okay? Okay, so we can move to another slide, Rose. Okay. All right. Okay, so these are the 2 important arrows trying to meet. Okay, research question. what are the questions that need to be addressed in the research? Research design, how can we implement the procedures to address the research question? So this is the relationship between choosing the right research design in order to ensure your research questions are addressed. Okay, so when we come up with a proper research design, we can make sure at the end of the day, our research questions are addressed. Okay, so when this relationship, when there is a clear relationship, inshallah, your research journey would be clear. But if these two is not in sync like this, right? If they are not in sync, if it's very loose like this, it's quite easy for you to be off track from your research. Okay, because then you'll be thinking like 6 months along the way. Am I doing the right research design to answer my research question? Betul ke ni? Oh my God, have I chosen the right sample? Are these the proper people I should be dealing with? Are they the expert in the field that can help me answer my research question? Because we don't want, at the end of your research journey, for example, our PhD student or our research, by masters, for the examiner to say, we don't think this is the right research methodology. Because kalau kita ada salah literature review, kita boleh betulkan. Kalau kita tulis a bit salah in our legal chapter, we can rectify. But how if our research design is wrong? That's why some candidates is asked to redo again the research methodology, at the completion of their research and come back again for viva. That is if the examiner find that the research methodology is flawed. Maknanya wrong research design, wrong research methodology, unable to meet the research question. Okay, so hence why that 5 questions are extremely important, okay, for you to answer, because you want to make sure that that synergy is there. Okay, so for some of you who have not thought about this particular relationship, I want you to think about it really hard, because this is the one that would actually ease way to your research process. Okay, and if you have problems in formulating research question, if you have problem in coming up with proper research design and research methodology, please speak to your supervisor about it. Okay, please discuss any concerns that you have, because I believe that your supervisor is the right and the best person to actually advise you, okay, on this. Okay, sebab kalau research design salah, research methodology salah, we've wasted our energy.
You okay, Kak?
Okay, yeah. We can move on to the next slide. Okay, baru sampai slide research methodology. So in other words, why did Dr. Nas put this slide here? Because before actually going straight to what's qualitative, what's quantitative, I want you to have some thought process first. I want those questions to be running through your mind first, okay, before we actually move on to the crux of our discussion, which is research methodology. Okay, so Okay, so let us revisit some basic terminologies in research design. So methodology, ingat tadi Dr. Nas cakap payung lah. Is payung, the payung besar. Is overarching macro level framework that offer principle of reasoning associated with particular paradigmatic assumption that legitimate various schools of research. Okay, those are all big words, but in simple words, it means that what is the framework you want to use for your research, and do you have enough justification for it? Okay, so that's it. So research methodology provide an overview, roadmap, and umbrella, okay, that provide both the strategies and grounding for the conduct of the study. So it's macro level. Sebab dia besar kan? Dia besar. Kita tengok from macro level. However, methods, research method is the actual micro level technique used to collect and analyze data. So some students, they get this a bit confused. Research methodology and research method. Research method tu dia bawah payung. Research methodology yang besar tu. Research method is the tangkai payung where you hold that. Okay? So these are the technique you use to collect and analyze data. So research design, kita dah choose qualitative, for example. We justify kenapa we choose qualitative. Method, research method, you know, to collect data, let's say Dr. Nas nak choose semi-structured interview or focus group discussion. Itu batang payung dia. Batang. Handle dia is your analysis. Research the analysis. You know, we use thematic analysis. Kita tengok after kita dah collect the interview, script tu, we combine all the script. Kita tengok apa tim-tim yang kita dapat from these interviews. Itu kita punya tangkai. So can you see? Research methodology is the umbrella. Macro level, that's qualitative, for example. Tangkai payung tu is your research method. Okay, you want to go for semi-structured or focus group, the batang payung tu, the tangkai payung tu is your analysis of data. That's for your data collection. So back to how tadi tu, even though you have chosen the right research methodology, tapi kalau research method salah pun tak boleh juga. Kan? Because research method is the batang payung and the tangkai payung. I'm trying to make you visualize it in the simplest way possible. Okay? So for example, let's say kita dah choose qualitative, so fine and good. Tapi for tangkai payung tu, kita choose observation. Observation is one of the method under qualitative research. For example, Dr. Nash, let's say lah, I want to buat research on indigenous children. Okay? Quality to access education for indigenous children. Okay, for observation, Dr. Nas sebenarnya kena duduk dekat sekolah tu 3 months or 6 months. I need to be part of them. I need to experience their difficulties in coming to school, whether they have adequate logistic or transportation facilities to bring them from their house to school. I need to experience all that. Okay? I only have 3 months to do my research, but requires more than 3 months, for example, for me to collect enough data. Because for observation tu, Dr. Nas kena tulis journal, kena tulis my daily experience. So, the method tu tak matching dengan, for example, your time frame. Dia tak match dengan your research question, for example. Okay, so research methodology, research methods, and tools is the devices used, okay, in the collection of research data. Okay, so for example, when we talk about tools, what are the tools that we have, okay, in the collection of research data? Okay, so like when we conduct like research interview, okay, when we conduct semi-structured interview, okay, so what are the devices that we need? We need questionnaire, okay. Has our questionnaire been validated? Or questionnaire is also known as interview protocol. For qualitative, interview protocol. For quantitative, survey, for example. So has this been validated? Okay, so again, we may have researched the right research methodology. We may have the right research method, but we choose the wrong research tool. So tak boleh juga. Okay, so when we want to conduct a semi-structured interview, for example, we must have interview protocol, okay, or interview question for our various respondent, right? That match the respondent that we have chosen. Tapi for focus discussion, our questions are meant for a group of people who have attended. So the nature of the questions are different. Okay, so your research methodology, research method, research tool, all must be in line with one another in order to help you address the research question. Okay, because we want to get the right answer to the research question. Tapi this is the how lah. In the 5 question tu, this is the how. This is where it fits in the how. Okay, so I want you to give some thought about it. Okay, before we move on to research design. Okay, so Nuruz, can we move on to the next slide? Okay, so far is everyone okay with the explanation?
Yes, Kak Nas.
Yes, excellent.
Nampak tak? Nampak tak the relationship yang the payung tu macro level, micro level, nampak tak all that?
Yes, doctor, I even draw the pendulum here.
True.
You even draw the payung, eh? Okay,
Yeah.
that's good. Okay, that's good. Can
I
you show us
draw the batang payung and also the curve of the
batang and the
umbrella. Yes,
handle payung?
just to make sure that I'm clearly understand what you are trying to explain.
Okay, so I mean, Alhamdulillah, I hope this supplement whatever you learn in your class. Okay, so in the class, your lecturer is the best in explaining to you, what is research methodology. But I hope today I'm providing you from a different perspective because I want you to see research methodology from a different angle. Okay, so as opposed to just doing it mechanically, nak prepare proposal, deadline proposal, I want you to have like the thought process, okay, to do that, right? Okay, so finally we come to our research design. After almost talking for 1 hour and 15 minutes, baru sampai research design. So this is after you have considered all that question that we have discussed earlier, then now we can say, okay, now we have arrived at this particular stage. Should I adopt qualitative or should I adopt quantitative? Tapi before we actually look into those questions, kita tak boleh imagine. We can't imagine yet, right? So we need to have that first before we decide, okay, I think I'm going for qualitative. Or before you say quantitative is definitely for me. Before you can say that with conviction, you must be convinced you have the right answers to the 5 questions Dr. Nas had given earlier, okay? You must be convinced of that because it is so important. Because before you convince the examiner, you must convince yourself first. Okay? Okay? That barulah kita dapat convince examiner nanti. When they ask, betul ke the research methodology you adopt? You need to go there and say, yes, I'm like 200% sure of this. Okay, so I think inshallah, hopefully that's my role for today, to make you feel confident about the method that you have chosen. Okay, so qualitative, and Dr. Nas put in this two timetable macam ni so that it's easier for you to see and make comparison. So ni pun comparative analysis juga kan? Okay, alright. Okay, so alright. So here, qualitative, it says more appropriate for exploring the variation and diversity in any aspect of social life. Okay, Dr. Nice just want to ask you something, okay? Next to the 5 questions yang you have written tadi, Dr. Nas wants you to add another question to that 5 questions. What is the impact of my research on the society? What is the impact of my research on society? So sebelum tidur ni additional question lah yang kena tulis nanti. Okay? Because I, honestly feel whatever research that we conduct, if there is an impact on society, I feel as researchers, we have contributed something. Okay, as researchers, we have contributed something. No matter whether it's big or small, don't put any quantification to your contribution. As long as ada satu sentence that say, in my research, I discovered this, and I think this can be an improvement to the law, alhamdulillah, good enough. Okay, so so basically, when we are doing legal research now, I think there are two schools of thoughts on this, okay? There is some legal research that is purely doctrinal, that only look into the legal aspect, only look into the law, without really looking into the impact of the law to the society. Is this acceptable? The answer to this is yes, it's acceptable, okay? However, there is another school of thought that say, a social legal perspective that says, whatever that we do, we cannot separate law and the society, which means that the reason why we have law in the first place is in order to provide a better structure to the society. And law can do just that, so we want to see the impact on the society, okay? So is this acceptable? Yes, it is acceptable too. But keep at the back of your mind yang question who tadi tu and relate it to this. What is the impact of my research on this category of the person? Sebab in your research proposal, you have this one section that have, that says significance of your research kan in your proposal. Okay? Who are the main stakeholders? Who are the beneficiaries of your research? Think about that. Who are the beneficiaries? If we are talking about improving the law, are we talking about policy makers? If we are talking about policy makers, which ministry, which division specifically is relevant to your research area? If you are talking about, let's say children, they are the main beneficiary. For example, child offenders, the main beneficiary if Child Act is improved would be child offenders in the institution. But not only that, it would also be the parents too. Okay? In addition to social welfare officers, in addition to the prison officers, in addition to social welfare department. Okay? So you need to think about it because, what gives weight to your research is the significance of your research. But don't quantify it. Ada sikit pun tak apa. Because I want you, this is another thing I want you to draw on your paper, okay? When you do your research, I want you to draw a wall, ada banyak brick. Can you all do that now? A wall with a lot of bricks. Okay? You know how to do it, right? Bricks on the wall. Okay, And then of all the bricks on the wall, I want you to color just one brick. I want you to color just one brick. Semua orang dah color dah that one brick?
Done.
Okay? Alright. I need to remember in whatever research we do, we are not able to cover the whole entire wall, okay? The only thing we can cover is that brick that you colored. That's it, and that is your contribution. Okay, that is your contribution. So we need to be realistic about it too, because we only have 3 research questions, 3 research objective. Kita tak ada 5. Kita tak ada 5 research question. Kita tak ada 5 research objective. When you only have 3 research question, that is that one brick that you are doing. Okay, so it's good to have this really grand idea. I want to change the world. I want to make this world a better place. I mean, that is such a noble idea to have. But when it comes to research, we have to bring down ourselves from the clouds to the ground and see what the realities are. And even if we can have that one brick, that's alhamdulillah, that's enough. Okay, so think about it. Again, before you sleep tonight, banyak assignment Dr. Nas kasih hari ni. A lot of things to think about. You know, what is the significance and contribution of your research? How do we want our legal research to have any impact on the society? Okay, because I think this carries a lot of meaning to your research. Because kita tak nak buat research for the sake of buat research saja kan? Because we want to have that fulfillment, we want to have that passion, you know, to see that yes, you know, we have done something. And kalau we stay up in the middle of the night pun is for a worthy cause, and we know that, you know, so that is for us. Okay, so tonight kalau ada orang yang tak tidur tu, then you can think lah about what Dr. Nas said. Oh, it's a worthy cause, that's why I'm not asleep, that's why I'm writing my research proposal. Okay, so these are, I mean, I'm just trying to make things light so that you are constantly motivated and that you don't lose track as to why you are doing research in the first place. So when we conduct qualitative, we want diversity. We want to explore the variation and diversity in any aspect of social life. So when we want to explore variation and diversity, this goes back to the sample that we have chosen. From whom we want to get this in-depth opinion from. Is it the officers from the ministry? Officers from social welfare of the department? Parents? Okay. Do we want to meet teachers? Who do we want to meet? Are we able to capture their opinion? Because qualitative is all about capturing opinion, capturing insight. And we need to justify. Kalau kita pilih one officer from policy division from Ministry of Women, Ministry of Women in Putrajaya. How many years has this particular officer worked in this area? Okay, what is the role that he or she is playing now in the ministry? What is his position now? Does his position have any impact at all on the policy? We want to capture the insight and opinion of this particular officer. Okay, so that's one officer. Another officer we may choose would be from, let's say, social welfare officer or pegawai akhlak, for example, or magistrate or judge. If we are choosing a particular judge, why that particular judge in that particular court that we are going to? You know, why not other judges? Okay, because it's very common for examiners to ask you this question, okay, in your defense proposal, or even in your viva. Because for qualitative, we are not concerned with the numbers of respondents we have chosen. We are focusing on the quality of respondent we have chosen for us to explore their opinion, for us to capture their opinion, so that this, when combined together with other respondents, will be able to help us in meeting the research question. Okay, so again, Dr. Nas would like to emphasize here, choosing the right respondent in qualitative is the key, not the quantity. Bukannya kena choose 50 orang or 30 orang, tak. It depends on your research area and who is in that position for you to choose from. Capture their opinion. When we combine all together, they are able to meet address your research question. Okay, all right. So secondly, focus more on studying values, beliefs, understanding, perception, and meaning. And what makes qualitative study interesting is that if you choose 26 respondents based on purposive sampling, okay? Purposive sampling. Purposive means you have studied them, you know they are the right respondent for you to go to. Among these 25 respondents, obviously they come up with different opinions and different insights, okay, as to the same question that you ask. Okay, this add variety, perception and meaning to what you are searching for, because you have 25 respondents trying to address your research question. So hence why we get different themes from the 25 respondents. You know, maybe respondent one, okay, for example, let's say Dr. Nas conducting a research on disciplinary problems among students in secondary school in Malaysia. Okay, all right. So respondent one, guru disiplin in sekolah menengah one says ice, drugs in school. Guru besar in sekolah 2 says well, pornography. Guru besar in sekolah 3 says, ponting sekolah. Guru besar in sekolah 4 say, not interested. Okay, not interested in studies at all. You have 4 different questions, 4 different answers to the same question. So that adds perception and meaning to your study, okay? Because you can have a variation, because in your report writing at the end of your proposal, you can say respondent 1 and respondent 2 agreed on this. However, respondent 4 and 5 said otherwise. You can have this comparative even in your findings. So that is, when it comes to qualitative, that's what we want. Okay, the variation of it, the various perception and meaning. And of course, in our legal study, one of the questions we always ask is, what do you think can be improved? What do you think of the current legal framework, and what are your recommendations to improve? This is a very important question in legal study. So if you conduct interview with 25 respondents, 25 respondents will say 25 different things. So isn't that an amazing finding? And then you triangulate this finding with your literature review and your benchmark jurisdiction. Okay, does it support one another? All right, so that is the beauty of qualitative. All right, more flexibility, definitely, because remember the how in the 5 question. Okay, in terms of data collection, and sometimes this happen. Okay, dah set dah nak interview this particular respondent, suddenly this particular respondent tak boleh. So, he email and say, sorry, but, I have someone else to meet you. For quantitative, that is not possible. Okay, because quantitative, the testing is very rigid. And also more flexibility here. even in terms of the questions that you ask, because sometimes the respondent may provide you with an answer that you haven't thought before, especially when they're expert in their area. And then you go like, oh yeah, why I didn't think about that? And then you ask another question to ask about that particular matter that was brought up, by the respondent. So, so that actually allows more flexibility, okay, in terms of undertaking your research. All right. And then calls on inductive and deductive logic. What inductive here, what this means is that you actually derive, the themes, okay, from your research based on, the findings that you have from all your, from all the respondents that you have interviewed. Okay. So in your research, in your finding, you may come up with 10 themes. So in your finding report, or in your findings, you divide your discussion into 10. Okay, into 10. And these are the ones that you're going to discuss. And what is best is that once you've gotten your finding, go back to your literature review and see whether it matches. If it doesn't match, you need to look into your literature review so that you can find something to match your findings. Okay, so does it match your literature review? Does it match the theory and principle you highlighted earlier? So that's deductive. All right, that's inductive. Okay, and then subjectivities, accept multiple perspective realities, favors the value of depth over quantity. So tadi subjectivities and multiple perspective tu Dr. Nas dah mention how you can derive this from the various type of respondent you have. Yang favors the value of depth over quantity. For example, in quantitative, if you want to conduct a quantitative study, a pilot study, the minimum people that you should have in conducting the survey is 30. Okay, 30. That's for your pilot study. Only with 30, SPSS analysis will be able to actually test the result. Without these numbers, SPSS analysis would not be able to test it. But for qualitative, we don't need that. Okay, we don't need the numbers. The most important is who you choose, why you choose them, and do they help you to answer your research question. That's qualitative. So remember the 5 questions, keep it at the back of your head. Okay, and then for quantitative, it's more appropriate in finding out the extent of the variation and diversity. Okay, so for example, how many people have a particular value, belief, etc. So tadi qualitative, for example, we want to find the opinions of the guru besar, the headmasters in school, 25 of them. Okay, but quantitative, you go out in the public, you ask the same question to the public. And then from there, SPSS will derive the finding and it says 35% out of 4,000 people who participated in the survey agreed that ice or drugs, okay, is a contributing factor to a disciplinary case. That's 45%. Another 25% says pornography. Another 35% says dropout rates, punting sekolah. Quantitative focus on extent. Berapa ramai? 45% says drugs. Qualitative, exploration. Headmaster 1 from school 1 says it's ice drug. Why he said? You can only find the why in the qualitative. The survey will only reveal the extent, which is the percentage, but the survey does not reveal the whys. The whys you get it from qualitative. Okay, so that's why for qualitative, we are not interested in numbers. We are interested in the quality of the respondents that we have chosen. Tapi for quantitative, we can play around with the figure. 45% say this, 25% say this, and then with this figure, SPSS analysis can generate more result. They can remember the theory of causality tadi that Dr. Nas mentioned about counselling, the extent of effect of counselling in marriage. SPSS analysis can derive that for you. Okay, the relationship between disciplinary problem and drugs, relationship between disciplinary problem and pornography. So SPSS is able to generate that. Okay, so for quantitative, there is a strong belief in the scientific method. This is very true because hence why it is very rigid. And especially in journal articles, if you read quantitative study, okay, they are very specific in explaining the procedure. First, pilot study. Okay, after pilot study has been conducted, what can be improved to the questionnaire? Findings, are the findings significant, not significant, less significant? All this can be generated. But these findings can only be derived provided you conducted your quantitative study rigorously, with the right sample, with the right population. Okay? And the need to test hypotheses. We don't have this in qualitative study because qualitative study emphasize on, the richness in the data. But for quantitative, hypothesis would mean, hypothesis would mean the influence of drugs, okay, among school children in secondary school contributes significantly to disciplinary problem. So after we have conducted our study, the results can be either negative or positive to your hypothesis. Okay, because for quantitative, that's what we want to prove. So quantitative is about proving your hypothesis. Proving, but qualitative is about, getting rich data to help you address the research question. Quantitative, proving the hypothesis to help you address the research question. Both help address the research question, but the method used are completely different. Okay, so the use qualitative is inductive, is based on thematic analysis, but for quantitative is based on data that we generate from the survey. Okay, so in other words, for quantitative, findings are generalization to the whole population. Okay, so for example, when Dr. Nas conducted, study in prison for all the kids, I've interviewed through the sampling that I have chosen, 436, covering the whole entire Malaysia. The findings from 436 can be generalized to the whole of child offenders in the whole of Malaysia. Okay, so that is quantitative. So quantitative, we focus on that. The need for objectivity. Okay, so objectivity here is again based on the sampling that you have chosen, okay, and value of quantification. So when we conduct survey, we are not focusing on their opinions. That's done under the qualitative. But for quantification, it's more for quantitative is more on the bigger our sample, generalization to the whole entire population is better. That is quantitative. Okay, all right. But for quantitative, of course, you need to have the right skills to conduct this. You need to have some background on statistics, okay, to conduct quantitative analysis. Okay, all right. Okay, so if we go to the next slide. Next slide, Nuruz. Okay, Dr. Nas had summarized this for you. Okay, I hope this is simple enough for you to understand and this would be able to help you and guide you in especially writing your research methodology section in your research proposal. Okay, so take note of the differences in terms of methodology, methods in both quantitative and qualitative. Okay, so when we talk about research design, again at this point, I want to ask everyone, after we have, it's about 4:45 now, and after we have gone through and see these slides together, which particular research design is able to meet your research question? So at this point, I want you to write as well, in your paper, after you look into this comparison between two research design, taking into account the 5 question plus 1 impact on society, which research design are able to help me in addressing my research question. Okay, is everyone okay so far? Is everyone clear so far with today's discussion before we move to another slide?
Dr. Nas,
Yeah,
I have a question.
okay.
I recall earlier you did mention that you did mixed method for your research. So does
Yeah.
it matter first whether it's qualitative or quantitative, or it doesn't matter?
Okay, actually my mixed method slide is at the end. Okay, tak apa, Dr. Nas boleh move to mixed method now. Lurus, do you think you can go to mixed method slide?
Sure, Dr. Nas, sekejap
Okay, because it's already 4:47. Time flies.
Yep.
Okay. Okay.
Dr. Nas,
So
can I ask you a
yeah.
small question?
Yeah, sure.
Can I ask? Okay, Dr. Nas, earlier on you did mention about 5 keys to your research: the where, the how, the when, the where, and what, right? But there's one important thing that was not in there, but later on you mentioned, was the why. I think the why and how should go together, because why is a question of why a certain phenomena happened, and how did it happen, and how do you overcome that phenomena becomes your finding. Isn't it important?
Yeah, of course. I think that one is under yang the 2 arrows yang Dr. Nas buat, the relationship between research design and research question. When we mention why do you choose this particular research design, right? So
Yes.
so your research design. So now everybody knows that research methodology yang the payung tu lah is the the big picture. So what you mentioned is right. So that is the why, because you need to justify, okay, the why, whether or not it it matches your research area, okay, whether or not it is able to address your research question. So so thank you for highlighting that again. Just to recap, because that was mentioned, I think at the early on. Okay. And also under for mixed methodology, what is mixed methodology? So tadi we have looked at both research design, which is qualitative and quantitative. Mixed methodology means we combine both methods because it helps to capitalize the best of both worlds. Okay, the argument between which is the best, that has existed since time immemorial, okay? It's like which one comes first, chicken and egg. So with the right research design, macam tu, which one is better, quantitative or qualitative? The answer to that is that every design has its own advantages. Every design has its own disadvantages. Okay, but in some areas, mixed methodology can help best to answer the research question. Okay, so why I chose mixed methodology? I derived at this after I read 6 methodology textbooks. Then only Dr. Naz was convinced that this was the right one for me. But another strong factor that pushed me towards this was because at that time I had a grant under me. Okay, so we were able to, hire research assistant. We were able to do all sorts of stuff with that money. Without that grant, I don't think I would have chosen this, because mixed methodology needs a lot of money in terms, because you need to combine both. And at the same time, Dr. Nas had to attend 6 months of statistical course, for me to be able to get acquainted with knowledge on statistics. And before this, I had no idea what statistic is all about. And so that was a very steep learning curve for me. But why I chose mixed methodology was because my research involved children and children in prison. And, and so it was involving the revamp of the provisions in the Child Act 2001. So, without input and feedback from the children, I wouldn't be able to say this, that the Child Act, Child Act needs this, Child Act needs improvement in this way. Because Child Act is about protecting children, but without getting input from them, Dr. Nas is unable to do that. But in order to get as many feedback from them, I cannot conduct interview. So the only way I can get access to them is through survey question. And my qualitative aspect come from 26 respondents from different people who conduct, who's in the juvenile justice system. Okay, so no doubt, mixed methodology gives you very, very strong finding, because you'll be able to triangulate it, okay, both findings. And when these findings were presented at the policy division in Ministry of Women, they took it very seriously, because I got the numbers, but at the same, I got the extent, remember, extent, the percentages, but at the same time, I also got the opinion as well. So, so Alhamdulillah, it pathways some of it to the Child Act Amendment 2016, where some of the recommendation is now in the Child Act, so Alhamdulillah for that, but that is the strength of mixed methodology, okay? But however, the relevant questions below need to be asked before adopting mixed methodology. Do I believe this is the best way to answer my research question? Am I open to both tradition and willing to develop the skill? Will implementing mixed methodology be impractical due to supervisory, time, or financial constraint? So Dr. Nas had to think about it to be easy, okay, for me. But again, I got the support from 3 supervisors. I got the time was on my side. I got a grant. So somehow or other, Allah made it easy. All these factors were present, and that was the one that contributed to my decision. Okay. However, whether or not this is the best method, the answer to that is no, because for your research question, qualitative may be the most suitable. Okay, for others, it's quantitative, but in terms of like legal research or legal social research, usually because we want to capture the opinion, we want to say our, current legal framework is inadequate. And because of that, we need the opinions of the expert, and when we need opinions from the expert, then, exploring their opinions and insight would be the best for us, right? So, Nuruz, can you go to the next slide? Okay, so here identifying the right research question is extremely important in providing the direction of the research. This can only be done when your literature review is solid. You've done enough literature review to find out what the gaps are. Once you find out what your research question, then you need to choose the research design. Research design serves as the blueprint that guides researchers in undertaking the research process. And determining the research design is important to help address the research question. Okay, so in addition to the research question, one must take into account skill, time frame, expertise, and financial assistance when deciding the research design appropriate for the study. So that would be the conclusion I will arrive at, because I think every researcher, every student should be given the opportunity to think about this, to have a thought process. Which one is the best for me? And there is no one method that is the best. If you do quantitative, that does not mean you are better than those who are doing qualitative, and vice versa. For those who are doing mixed method, it doesn't mean your research is more superior than those who are not. Okay, because as an examiner or researcher myself, I look at to what extent it answers your research question and whether you provide enough justification for it. Okay, so I hope the sharing session I have with you today, with a bit of experience that Dr. Nas has, is able to shed you some light, and at least you look at research from a different perspective now. Okay, so is everyone okay so far? It's 4:57. So anyone wants to ask any question?
Dr. can I stop sharing now?
Sure.
All right. I'm back. Anybody? Fellow participants, do you have any questions?
I have 79 participants today. That's good. Alhamdulillah. It's a lot.
In fact, the number is slightly bigger, Doctor, just now.
Oh, really?
But I
Okay,
think
okay.
All right.
Assalamualaikum, Dr. Nas.
Yeah, Waalaikumsalam.
Yeah, you're my panel for my first semester during my ML, during my master's.
Oh,
So-
really? Can you show yourself?
Yeah. So yeah, I'm preparing my proposal for my PhD. So thanks to Dr. Sarah for inviting me to join the webinar series.
Okay,
So
good.
yeah,
Alhamdulillah.
today's session is very interesting actually, because it much helped me to determine my research methodology for my proposal actually, because I'm there's a bit delay for my proposal preparation. So is it possible that we have this kind of webinar series for the next for the next session? Because this is for methodology, research methodology, right?
Yeah.
So we have other parts of in preparing our proposal. We have other important parts, such as literature review is the most important part, right? So if we didn't firm with our literature review, then we got stuck with the other stage, right? So I would suggest that we have this kind of session for the very beginning of preparing proposal, especially for PhD students who want to pursue their studies to PhD, who stuck at the preparing their proposal, right? So these kind of things maybe can much help for the Because
Yeah, I
today's
mean,
is
that would
very
be
interesting. It's very sangat membantu lah, sangat membantu.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I'm glad you feel the same. I'm glad you feel that way, and I hope the rest feel the same as well.
Dr. Nan, one
Hopefully there is
very
a-
short question.
Yeah.
One very short question.
Sure.
Okay, now I think a choice of whether it is qualitative or quantitative highly depends on your career path that you are going. If your career path points to social sciences, by all means go on quantitative. But if your career path goes on to hardcore industrial, where you need later on to do operational research and strategic research, I think qualitative is better. What do you think?
Of course, I mean, I had the benefit of teaching MEL students for a few years. And, I learned a lot from them because, MEL students, they have experience in their work, they come in with that, some of them 10, 15 years. And I can see from like looking at their research proposal, they have a lot of ideas, and they can see a lot of weaknesses, gaps in the operational part of their work, and they try and link it with the law. So like for them, they also ask me the same question. And I said, and I agree with you because, some that attended my MEL class, they are doctors, pharmacists, policemen, banyaklah variety of them. And of course, it depends on that, some too from LHDN, some too from MACC, so it's always a very interesting mix in MEL class. So I agree with you, but at the same time, that's the thing about the time frame that I was mentioning about. Maybe, if you are serious about doing future, right? Then, on your own, you can take quantitative courses or qualitative courses that would, help you to conduct research because, we shouldn't put an end to research right after you graduate. If you are really passionate about research, keep on doing it, especially when you are back to work. There's always a research division in your organization. Find out in what way you can actually help. What are the new areas your research organization is looking into. When you are in the organization, you get first-hand information as to researchable areas. So, get in touch with your research division, continue with your research because researcher is a lifelong career. Doesn't stop. But thank you for your feedback. Yeah.
Doctor, do we have more time to ask questions?
I think we can take one more question.
Can
Yeah,
I?
sure, no problem.
Yeah. Well, I can't see Dr. Nas. Is she still here?
Yes, Dr. Nas is still
I'm
here.
here.
Yeah, Dr. Nas. I can't see you actually. Yeah.
Oh,
It's
you can
okay.
see me? Can the rest see me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay, you are there.
Okay.
Okay, doctor. If I'm preparing a proposal for my organization, meaning that the sample would be the staff of the organization. So, what would be the most appropriate research methodology that I maybe can choose either mixed, qualitative, or quantitative?
What organization are you from?
uh,
That would be the first question I ask.
I'm dealing with halal enforcement, enforcing the law with halal.
Okay.
Can
All
you
right.
guess? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So again, it is back to the five question. Who's the subject of your research? Are you dealing with companies? Are you dealing with consumers as end users? Or are you dealing with policymakers who are looking into improving halal legal framework? Because different categories of persons call for different research design, different respondent, different research question. Okay, so I hope that gives you some idea, because halal is huge. Halal industry is huge. You know, are you looking at operational side? Are you looking at customer satisfaction? You know, if it's just operational, that means you're just looking into, you know, people who work within the halal industry. If you're talking about consumer satisfaction, it's public. It's the survey that would be the best, you know, to gauge to what extent is the, is the public satisfied with it. So it really depends on who are your, target areas, okay? Who are the categories? It depends on that. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, doctor. Thank you very much.
Okay, no worries.
Alright.
Anyone?
Yeah. I think that's the last one, Dr. Nas.
Sure. I mean, if anyone else has any question, you can email to me at do I give my email? Hang on, I just want to. Okay. Okay, hang on. I just put my email address in the chat box. Okay.
All right.
Okay. Okay. Dr. Nas shared my email address. Due to time constraint, I would love to entertain more questions, I think this is fun. Tapi due to time constraint, we can't. So if anyone wants to ask me for a question, you are most welcome to email me. Okay?
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Nazria. On behalf of fellow participants, please accept our sincerest appreciation and knowledge. Yes, Doctor.
If I may say something with regard to Azura's question.
Oh, yes.
Azura, actually this is our 5th webinar session in our LRM legal research webinar series. So we have discussed about preparing research proposal and literature review in the earlier webinar. But today I really thought of you, so that's why I text you, share with you the link. Okay, but we can do it more. We can just repeat all the session again and again.
Yeah, Doctor, can we have the previous webinar series video?
Oh yeah, sure. We can just share all the knowledge with all. Okay. And later I will share with you.
Sure.
That would be great. Thank you, Dr. Sarah.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sarah.
As for today, earlier on we have 88 participants who listened to your presentation, Dr. Nas.
Okay.
All right.
I'm glad.
Zulia.
Alright, thank you, Dr. Sarah. So guys, before we end, a few housekeeping matters. Number one, if you can see the chat box, please fill out both forms, the registration and feedback form. Don't forget, the most important thing for today is the fundamental questions. The 5 woohoo. Please, we're gonna have to remember this. Thank you very much, Dr. Nas, for that.
Come on, Zulia.
Who, where, when, how, what, and important one. I'm gonna put it right in my form. Impact of the research to the society. Don't forget. It'll be all right in your form. Okay, guys. Housekeeping reminder this time.
Plus Y.
I'm running out of hand. Y will be in the entire right hand then. Lastly, Dr. Nazria, Dr. Sarah, for memory's sake, let's have a screenshot together. Yes, that's how things are gonna be now. Screenshot.
Yeah, our
Switch on your camera, guys. Okay, everybody, cameras on. All right. In 3, 2, generous.
I'm here.
All right. 2 and 1. Smile.
Are we done?
Done,
right?
All right, very good.
You're taking this, right?
I thought it was you.
I thought it was you.
All right, let's do it one more time, guys. Just one more time. Sorry, Dr. Nas. Sorry, Dr. Sarah. One more time.
No worries.
I cannot find my video, my camera.
Bye, Dr. Sarah. It's right.
Cannot do something.
Just do it without me.
No, cannot. Stop with video.
It's on the right next to the mute button.
Yeah.
Yes. It's in between. It's sandwich.
Okay.
Yes. All right.
Okay, all right. So
Okay.
you're taking this, right? Again?
Hello, host, take it.
Okay.
I'm just gonna smile.
All right,
Okay, guys.
all right.
3, 2, 1. All right.
All right.
Yeah, we're good. Thank you very much, Dr. Nazria. Thank you very much, Dr. Sarah. Oh my God, my supervisor is here. Hi, Dr. Nazria. And fellow participants. Thank you very much, everybody. I hope it's going to be a great time ahead. Stay safe. That marks the end for today's session. Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam. Thank you very much, everyone.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, everyone, and have a nice weekend, inshallah. Bye.
You
Yeah.
too.
Thank you, Dr. Nas. Thank you, Dr. Nasrin. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Durus. Thank you, Zulia. Thank you, Zuhaira. Ku Amir.
Hi.
I'm waiting for your proposal.
Thank you, Dr. Sarah.
Guys, forms, guys, don't forget feedback form.